So welcome to you all. My name is Lorraine H and I'm a member of this church with the privilege of leading the service today. As a community of faith, aiming to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, I welcome you to the service today. Whether you are a seeker looking for a spiritual home, a wanderer returning to the fold, or a lifelong member, there is a place for you. Together we will grow in faith, forging lasting friendships and working toward a world reflective of the divine love that guides us. So welcome to our church, where every person is valued, every voice is heard, and every soul is cherished. We're now going to light the Christ candle. I invite Eli, would you like to come up and light the candle? Christ said, "I am the light of the world. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." The psalm for today is Psalm 121, and we're going to say it together in a call and response. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord. God will not let your foot be moved. God who keeps you will not slumber. God who keeps you will not slumber. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord keeps watch over you. Robert, thank you. Robert will read the Luke passage.
Right, the reading today is from Luke chapter 18, verses 1 to 8. Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. He said, in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for the people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, "Grant me justice against my accuser." For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, "Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not wear me out by continually coming." And the Lord said, "Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant them justice. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?"
2,000 years ago, we encounter a parable that is also another David and Goliath story. It speaks deeply about justice, faith, persistence, courage, God's care and prayer. Now, the Gospel of Luke, which we've just heard the passage from, was written around 80 to 90 AD in a Hellenistic city. It offers this story to a small, struggling group of Jesus followers. These early Christians were trying to reconcile a number of things. Firstly, the teachings of Jesus, their Jewish roots in Scripture, in the face of trauma and destruction of the temple, and the belief that Jesus would return soon. And at the same time, they faced persecution from Rome. Christians were seen as disloyal to the emperor and suspicious rumours circulated about their strange practices like eating flesh and drinking blood. As a result, they were lumped in with criminals and subjected to brutal punishments, including death by wild beasts in the arena. So in such a world, how could these Christians maintain hope and faith? How could they avoid losing heart while waiting for the Son of Man? And so Luke offers an answer in the form of parable. And so to understand the full power of this parable, we will explore 5 things. I'm going to look at a comparison between the Roman and Jewish governance in the first century, the background and aftermath of the Jewish-Roman War, how this historical context provides rich symbols for the parable's significance for the early Jesus followers, and finally, ask, is there any relevance for us today? So firstly, governance in the first century. In the first century, Mediterranean world was governed more than just earthly rulers and structures. It was also shaped by the heavenly realm, gods, deities, and cosmic beings. In the Roman worldview, at the most powerful stood Zeus, and through a chain of lesser gods and deities through to the emperor, who was often considered divine, even when he was alive. In the earthly realm, power fell down a rigid hierarchy from the emperor through to slaves. Differential rules depended upon class, status and wealth. And a woman's rights was entirely dependent upon their male relatives. Further, women couldn't vote, they couldn't stand for office, and they had no formal role in public life. But the important thing to note from this slide is the unique position of the emperor. He was both a god in the heavenly realm and a supreme ruler on the earth. Now let's have a look at the Jewish worldview. Judaism had a similar hierarchical worldview. Yahweh was the supreme God, surrounded by a divine council, angels, and at the bottom at the moment, Son of Man from Daniel 7. And there are a few other beings, the angelic seraphim and cherubim and Satan. On earth, the temple and the Torah linked people to God. The Torah was given to people from God and was God's law, and the temple was where God dwelled. And beneath them were the priests, scribes and rulers, and the ordinary people right down the bottom. But Rome, while they had given Jews a special dispensation to practice their religion, the Jews lived under the ever-watchful eye of the empire. And somewhere in the middle becomes the Christian position. Jesus, the Son of Man, links heaven and earth, but the worship of the Roman emperor is rejected. The temple's centrality is rejected, and Christians, as I said before, have those strange religious practices. Rome had not given the Christians special dispensation. So they're a threat to the Romans, and they're also a threat to the Jewish population. Just keep all of those things in the back of your head, if you wouldn't mind, as we move on to a bit of history about the Jewish-Roman War. These 3 interesting dudes are from the Flavian Empire. There's father and 2 sons. And in 66 AD, there was unrest in Judea, and it led to open war. General Vespasian, who became a later general, launched a brutal campaign in Galilee. That's where the rebels were. Guess who came from Galilee? Culminating in the destruction of the temple and the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD under his son Titus. And Vespasian had become emperor by this time. So it was a bit of a family situation here. And after the temple was destroyed, there was a massive entertainment precinct in Rome. The Flavian Amphitheatre, now called the Colosseum, is a reminder of their brutality. Now, the fallout of the war and the temple destruction was devastating. The captured Jews and the spoils of the temple were paraded through Rome. And this picture on which you can you see the menorah? And in the right-hand side, can you see those sort of sticks? They are the trumpets, which were from the temple. And this is already, you can go to, apparently, I haven't been, you can go to Rome and there's an Arch of Titus and you can see this 2,000 years later. So it's a real thing. The second thing that the Romans did was that they minted lots of coins, and they minted coins so that they could say, we're pretty powerful. And a couple of them, as you can see there, you can see the woman sitting under a tree, and that's a slave woman. And you can see Judea, and there's also on the top, it's called Judea Capta, which means we've captured Judah. And the third thing that happened, because Jerusalem was totally destroyed, the Jews were scattered throughout the empire. It's not dissimilar to what we see in Gaza now with everything destroyed. Now, to add salt to the Jewish wound, the temple treasures, which we saw in the slide before, funded the Colosseum construction, and the slaves from Judea provided labour. And in 80 AD, the Colosseum opened to the public for brutal and bloodthirsty entertainment with gladiator contests, boxing matches, wild animal hunts and public executions. While there's no apparent historical evidence of Christians being executed in the Colosseum itself, it is known that they were thrown to wild beasts for not bowing down to the emperor. And these are some of the images that you can see in mosaics around Rome and other parts of Italy. At the top, you can see some beasts devouring somebody. Bottom right is an image of two boxers. Now, it's within this atmosphere of violence, trauma, and humiliation that Luke's parable begins to make sense. So what are the symbolism and metaphors in this parable? Now, firstly, the image on the right is of a magistrate, a judge. Getting the picture? And can you see in his hand there is a cloth? And what he does is the magistrates were given cloth to actually start the games at the Colosseum. And there's this white cloth and went. Is that not familiar today when I think car races are started? Mm-hmm. Now, the emperor, being the most powerful magistrate, would often perform this duty. Now, as Luke likes symbolism and metaphor to avoid directly challenging Rome while still making powerful points, he opens the parable with the words, a certain city and a certain judge, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, who neither fears God nor respects people. Now, could this be a metaphor for the emperor? Now, we recall that the emperor straddled heaven and earth, right in the middle, claimed to divine authority, and was the ultimate source of justice. So I believe that to be no fear of God, he destroyed the temple, the house of God. No respect for people. brutal opposition, slavery, barbaric entertainment, a corrupt and unjust authority figure who rules for self-interest. What about the widow? The parable's widow may symbolise Jewish Christians, or Christians in general. The Jewish Christians had lost their temple, their homeland, and seemingly their God. Now, in Hosea, there is an imagery where Israel is described as a wife separated from her husband, God. You also see the same imagery in Isaiah. And in Roman propaganda, as we saw before, Judea was depicted as a weeping, chained woman. Nowhere near the powerful justice-seeking widow we see in the parable. And yet, in verse 7, the widow keeps coming back, demanding justice against her adversary. She is persistent. Now, the Greek term hypopiasium, and has been translated variously as to wear out, come and attack, embarrass, or tire me, is actually a boxing term. Now, I don't know if you recall, a few months ago I was talking about prayer and the Lord's Prayer, and the word for sin, it was an archery symbol of missing the mark. So Luke is once again using a symbol of a symbol here as a boxing term. And the boxing term is a powerful masculine word. And it means to strike under the eye. It means to make black and blue. And to me, it's a metaphor for persistent, determined attack. It's not about a passive, nagging person. It's a relentless fight. It's a moral boxing match. And I think the Message paraphrase is probably closest to the imagery. And I'll read the Message, that is the version of the Bible called the Message. But because this widow won't quit badgering me, I'd better do something and see that she gets justice. Otherwise, I'm going to end up beaten black and blue by her pounding. Now, to me, Luke uses this very absurd image. We've got a powerless widow jabbing at a judge who has the power over her life, literally. He uses the image and the metaphor to highlight both the tenacity of faith, but also the weakness of corrupt power. And I want to think about the theological reversal. Jesus turns the parable on its head. He then says, listen to what the unjust judge says. Now, I can imagine it's being sarcastic, like, really listen to what he's saying. The judge is unjust. An unjust judge is an oxymoron by definition. You can't be a judge if you're unjust. Secondly, the judge gives in, not out of justice, but out of self-preservation. He folded like a pack of cards, a mere paper tiger. His judgment's flimsy, his character is selfish, and his concern for the widow and justice non-existence. He's certainly not a worthy opponent for the widow. Can you think if you were the Jewish Christians at the time, how this would actually embolden you, give you faith? But in contrast, God is nothing like this judge. God brings swift justice to those who cry out. God's people are not abandoned. no matter how dire their circumstances. God listens to prayer and responds to compassion. Now, when I was looking this up, I thought there's got to be something in the Old Testament, and certainly in Isaiah 62, 6-7, where the people are called to cry out day and night until Jerusalem is restored. And in Isaiah 62:11, Isaiah relays God's message that their Saviour will come to complete what he promised. The Christian heritage of Jesus' faith stretches right beyond Rome, and it will outlast us. The Christians have the history of the Jewish tradition, and they know that Christ will come. And they know that because Luke, in verse 8, believes that the Son of Man will come. Now, Luke uses this term 25 times in his Gospel to refer to Jesus. It's more than any other Gospel writer. The Son of Man is a figure that bridges heaven and earth, deity and humanity. This prophetic figure in Daniel is, according to Luke, fulfilled in Jesus. And with Jesus as the divine human figure, Christians have subverted Israel's religion and countered the Roman religion. And they too have a worthy religion to be fought for and to be recognised. So what does it mean today? I think Luke's message is bold and timely in today's world. God is just, even when earthly powers seem invincible, as we might see from our television screens and social media outlets. The early Christians, even though they were the new kid on the block, were not to lose heart, even when the world seemed against them. The parable encourages the community to stay faithful and prayerful, be persistent in prayer, act with courage, trust. Luke's parable is a call to resistance, not with swords, but with faithful persistence. To the early Christians facing lions, chains, and ridicule, Luke says, don't give up. Don't lose your heart. Your God sees you. Justice is coming. And today, for us, facing our versions of injustice, disillusionment, or suffering, the call remains. Keep praying, keep fighting, keep the faith. Amen.